What's good in the hood, people? What is good in the hood? I'm turning into bloody David Diamante. But I'll tell you what is good in the hood. The gyms are open. The gyms are back open, people, and I can't bloody wait to go this evening. I will go today. I will go tomorrow. I will go Saturday. I will go Sunday, and I will keep on going every single day because I haven't done any form of exercise since the gym's closed. Like last time, the last lockdown, I went running, I done some weights, I done some band stuff, I done a lot of shit last time. This time, I ain't done shit. And the worst thing is, I've been eating shit. So it's not like I've done some sort of counterbalance. No, I haven't done no exercise and I've been eating shit. Luckily, I haven't put on too much crap. I don't really put on too much fat, to be honest, but that's lucky because as I get older, there's no doubt it's going to be harder to shift that timber around the waist. So I'm going gym today and I can't wait to go gym. Oh, that's a good cup of coffee. But I'll tell you what else is, no, this isn't even what's good in the hood. I'll tell you what's strange in the hood. Before we talk ERROL SPENCE, Danny Garcia, Glenn McCrory. McCrory. Is it McCrory or McCrory? I think it's Glenn McCrory, right? That's going to bug me. Let's double check. McCrory, basically. He is having a fight against Evander Holyfield. That's happening. Now, when I first heard this, I thought this was under the disguise of what we saw Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones. I thought it was going to be under the same company. And I was talking about there being a seniors league. And I thought, okay, this is how the continuation of it, right? Evander Holyfield makes sense, right? He's a big name in America. It won't do the same numbers, obviously, as a Mike Tyson. There isn't that same intrigue, but he's still a big name nonetheless. I thought it was going to be like under that. And I thought it was going to be the same production, same Snoop, same Rogue type commentators, another YouTube fight. I thought it was going to be all that again. And I could see how that would make sense. But no, this one is under the BKB banner. So for those of you that don't know what BKB is, that's bare knuckle boxing. Now, I saw a tweet from Adam Cattrall yesterday to say that although it is under the BKB banner, Glenn McCrory and Evander Holyfield aren't having a bare knuckle boxing fight. So they're not fighting bare knuckles, it's just under that promotional banner. And the fight will take place at the O2 Arena in April. So what, 4 or 5 months away. Look, it's going to happen now, right? I mean, I think there's always been these this isn't even an exhibition fight, but there's always been the talk of a lot of older fighters wanting to come back. And I guess Mike Tyson has probably just kicked down the doors now and people have an appetite to see it. People want to see it. I don't know. I don't know if I do want to see it, if I'm honest with you. Mike Tyson's one, bigger gloves, 2-minute rounds. It clearly was a body spar. That I can just about tolerate and accept. Like, for example, I couldn't tolerate Nigel Benn coming back against Sakio Bika in a real fight. 3-minute rounds, it probably would have been a 10-rounder. That I can't accept. And I don't know if I can accept or like Glenn McCrory and Evander Holyfield getting it on for real. Now, I say for real, we don't know if it's, again, something like Mike, right? 2-minute rounds, 8 rounds, etc. We don't know. I hope it is. But it would have been nice, though, if we are going to continue this seniors tour, that's what I'm going to call it. It would have been nice for it to all be under Triller. Is it Triller or Thriller? I know, that doesn't matter, does it? It would have been nice for it to be under that. And then we build something. And then you get the guys like Bernard Hopkins coming back. And maybe even Nigel Benn coming back, right? Chris Eubank Sr. Like, all but... Again, body spars, nothing too serious. That's what Mike Tyson, Roy Jones was, by the way, a body spar. Yeah, I think Mike went for the head a couple of times, but I think that's just when the red mist descended. So what do you guys think of Glenn McCrory versus Evander Holyfield? Do you have any interest in that? I have to admit, obviously I've seen Evander get in shape, and Evander is in good shape. I didn't know Glenn was even contemplating doing this. I spoke to Johnny Nelson at Name Drop 2 days ago, and I said, would you do it? And he said, yeah, he would do it. He says he does body spars and he gets paid no money at the Ingle Gym when he's helping out the younger kids. So if someone can pay him some money, he'll definitely do it. So we could see like a bit of an old timers league starting to starting to happen. All right, let's talk Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia quickly because it is 10-10 and I need to be out of here in 20 minutes. What a great fight that's almost just snuck up on us, right? I mean, it's weird. Like, again, it must be because of the pandemic. A fight of this magnitude, it kind of, you start talking about it a month out, even 2 months out. Or maybe it's not just because of the pandemic. Maybe it's because we have been having big fights now every single week. It feels like there's an event every single week. I mean, you take last week, we had Danny Dubois, Joe Joyce, and Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. Do you know? So it seems that there's an event all the time now. But this is the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones of the year. This is huge. Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia could be the biggest fight of the year. I still think that tag has to go to Tio and Loma. For me, that was a massive fight. It really was. And it proved to be a good one as well. But this, because of the intrigue surrounding Errol and the respect we have to give to Danny, this could be as big as it gets this year. Big fight. And boxing has delivered. I always complain about boxing not delivering, so I feel like I might now give it some plaudits. Congratulations on boxing delivering. I mean, boxing isn't a sport that, look, we've seen the grants and money given out to other sports, right? Boxing just isn't that. Boxing literally has to, well, then again, there is no world governing body, but boxing really just governs itself and has to kickstart itself. And I think boxing's done extremely well to put on pretty much every single fight that was going to happen has happened. And fighters are taking pay cuts to make these fights happen. So congratulations to the fighters more than anything for doing it. I think the only fight that hasn't happened this year is Wilder Fury. This fight is questions. It really is. You know what it is? Even prior to Errol and the car accident, I do think the mystique of Errol had started to wane a little bit. I think Errol, after beating Kell Brook, there seemed to be a fear factor from other 147 fighters about fighting Errol. You guys know, Keith Thurman seemed to stutter his way out of a fight all the time. Danny didn't seem interested, nor did Sean, and I've got a lot of respect for Sean. The only fighter that seemed interested, and I think that's why he got so much respect, was Terence Crawford. He's the only one that was like, I'll fight him. But obviously we knew that fight couldn't happen. But I do think, and it isn't because of the Sean fight, I do think maybe because of the Mikey fight. I think a lot of people are like, okay, maybe he isn't as big and strong as we kind of thought he was. And that's because he couldn't get rid of Mikey. Yeah, he won nearly every single round, but Mikey was a 135 fighter, let's be honest, and he couldn't get rid of him. Couldn't get rid of Mikey. And I think a lot of boxers then were like, yeah, he's good and he's strong and he's big, but maybe he isn't as good and as strong and as big as we think. And then he fought Sean, and that was a very close fight. And I said it would be. I get my predictions wrong on this channel a lot, but I said Sean and Errol will be a good fight, and it was a good fight. Sean, I think, made everyone then stand up and say, okay, we'll take the fight. And I think that's what's happening right now. Remember, Danny was supposed to fight him before the car accident anyway. They were supposed to fight in January last year. January this year. That was scheduled. And obviously the car accident happened. So here we are now. Credit to Errol, right? I mean, he's going straight in, no warm-up fight. And who would have bemoaned about him having a warm-up fight? No one would have said anything, right? If he was to fight anybody, anyone, just fight. He's going straight in against a guy that's always been in and around that top 5 welterweight since he jumped up to welterweight. Danny's just been that guy. Danny's got 2 losses on his record, and those losses are very, very close. Very. Keith Thurman fight, both guys unbeaten. That was split decision, so that tells you how close it was. Keith started very well, and then Danny started to come on. Similar with Sean. This guy, every time I discredit him, and every time I think someone's going to put the beating on him, he proves me wrong. Matisse, I thought was going to beat him. Hands Up, thought I was going to beat him, proved me wrong. Amir Khan, I thought was going to beat him as well, proved me wrong. Even, I didn't think Zab was going to beat him, but I don't know if you guys remember the build-up to that. It had so much energy. Go and watch the build-up again on YouTube. They were literally going mad. Like, that was as fired up and motivated Zab as I've seen in a long time. And, he got the victory. So every time I do think there's going to be a bit of a problem, he steps up. This, however, is a bit more than a bit of a problem. This is against arguably the best 147 fighter out there. I don't think that. I think Terence is, but I think if you ask people, if there's a poll, I think more people would have Errol than Terence. Not for me. So this isn't your Amir Khan. This isn't your Lucas Matisse. This isn't Keith or Sean or Zab. This is Errol Spence. And this is a now determined Errol Spence. This is a guy that nearly lost his life. And I think that has made him really reevaluate everything. And that's what happens sometimes when shit hits the fan. You do think, wait a minute, I'm close to losing everything here. Close to losing hundreds of millions in the ring, potentially. Close to losing everything I've worked for, right? Errol coming up was that quiet guy. You guys remember when Errol was first coming up? It was the quiet guy, didn't really say anything, very humble. Then he beat Kel, became a bit, had an attitude, I think it's fair to say. We started seeing him in the background of fights, right? Him and that crew of DiCarlos and Javante and Adrian Broner. We saw him drunk and I was like, what is he doing? Don't throw it away now. And then the accident happened in the Ferrari. Now, though, he looks super determined. Now he looks big again. He looks strong again. He looks sharp. And I think mentally he looks really on it. So I think this is going to be a big, big test for Danny. Danny is a fantastic fighter. I've said this so many times, and I'm going to keep saying it, has a laser of a right hand. Like when he throws, either hand basically, when he throws, it just do. That's Danny. But his feet are slow. His feet are slow. And I just think he's far too undersized. I know he's been at the 147 division a long time, but he's undersized for Errol. Errol big. And Errol's going to come into the ring big as well. I think this will be close though. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Danny. And you can't sleep on him. Again, when he fights other top welterweights, this guy rises. He literally raises his level. No one destroys him or embarrasses him. He raises his level. And one thing I will say about Danny as well that no one talks about, his chin. No one, I don't know if it's because of, I don't know why we don't talk about his chin, but Danny's got a chin as well. So Danny can take a punch. He's very clever with his shots. But I just think Errol's far too determined. I think we're going to see as good an Errol Spence performance as we saw against Kell Brook. Just because, again, this guy, I think, has something to prove. I don't think he gets Danny out of there. I think he wins it on points, but I do think the last couple of rounds are very, very brutal and painful for Danny. And I don't know, his dad might throw in the towel because I think Errol's going to put on a clinic here. And I think he wants to lay down a marker for the Terence Crawford fight, which I really do believe is going to happen in 2021. I know it might have been a faded Kell and a weight-drained Kell, but what Terence done to Kell, I think Errol's going to want to try and do something special for us. I really do. I do also believe that if you bought the Kell versus Terence fight with that Premier Sports thing, it allows you to get this one as well. I hope, because I think you sign up for the month like I did, and obviously the fights are in the month. So that'd be good if we can get that. That fantastic, right? I paid a tenner for that to get these two fights for a tenner. Jeez, that'd be good. So I like Danny, but I'm hoping for an Errol win just because we can then start the sell for Errol versus Terence. But I don't think anyone should sleep on Danny just because, like I said, when Danny has needed to step up, even in the losses, he's performed. I mean, go way back. I mean, this guy, like way back, fought people like, I'm sure he fought like Kendall Holt coming up. Even Ashley Theophane. Now, I think Ashley Theophane was a split decision loss. It was. But he's fought decent names on the way up. And every time I thought, this guy might cause him a problem, he finds a way. Always finds a way. And he was very, very unlucky in both the Sean and Keith performances. That's why I think Danny's going to be a bit of a problem for a few rounds, just because he has fantastic timing and seems to have a gas tank as well. Always starts slow, but then starts to really up the gears. Problem is, Errol starts fast and Errol stays fast. So we'll see how it goes. All right, let's quickly see if we can get some news in before we have to go. Jeez. We're going to do a separate video on Anthony Yarde versus Lyndon Arthur. I'll do that one tomorrow because I do want to talk about that. I want to talk about Anthony Yarde and what's going on with him. Before that, though, let's do Mike Tyson saying he smoked weed before and after Roy Jones fight. all throughout training camp. Sorry, I don't know what that. So, Anthony Joshua, the longer I wait for Fury, the better prepared I'll be. I don't like that line at all, personally. Don't like it at all. We don't want you to wait. This fight's got to happen next year. I do wonder what's going to happen with Fury, though, because, again, Cabiel, I thought Cabiel was canned because of Wilder, so I assumed he was going to go straight into a Wilder fight. Cabiel was canned because of money. So I do wonder, is Fury going to fight in March and April? And if so, who against? Because it doesn't seem like it's going to be Wilder, if I'm honest with you. Josh was saying a few things, yeah? Joshua, Fury never drew large stadium crowds. He needs me to do so. Don't know about that. I feel if Fury versus Wilder 2 was over here, so bear in mind how the first fight ended, him getting up like The Undertaker, I think that would have done a stadium fight here. Fury Wilder would have done 90,000. Don't know about 90, but it would have done the Emirates or Tottenham's new stadium, 60 odd. So I don't know. I think that gap is closing. Like I don't know right now if AJ versus Pulev would do. Like if AJ versus Pulev was at Wembley Stadium, I don't know if it does 90,000 tickets. If AJ versus Pulev was at Tottenham's stadium, would it do 60,000? Maybe, but that gap is closing, you know. I mean, AJ was once here in terms of the draw and Fury was there. It's more like that now. It's like that. That's why the fight has to be 50-50 or it's just going to be problems. Povetkin's promoter, decision soon on whether or not White rematch lands in January. Should we just move on and do White Fury then, please? I mean, we don't have to, White doesn't have to get his revenge. You can, this isn't, just move on, basically. Move on. What else we got? Billy Joe Saunders putting in work for Martin Murray. Better put in work. Oh, Keith Thurman chirping now. In 2021, I want the Spence Garcia winner. I thought Keith had retired. When was that Manny Pacquiao fight? I can't even remember when that was. Let's have a look. You know, I was thinking about who hasn't fought during this pandemic. And it is obviously Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman. They've not fought. Right? I mean, boy. Keith's not a fighter anymore. I mean, he is a fighter. That's disrespectful, but he's just not like going in. 20th of July, 2019. Yeah. I mean, Pac-Man, do whatever you want, Pac-Man. You've fought, I don't know how many times, 80 times. Do it. You could. Thurman, you've no reason not to be fighting. Pac-Man has every reason. Pac-Man is fighting in an era past an era. He shouldn't even be fighting now. Thurman has no excuse to have not had a fight. So the idea of him wanting the winner after coming off a loss, okay, sir, you should fight the loser. This was interesting. I saw this. Claressa Shields has signed a deal with PFL. PFL is the Professional Fight League? I think it is the Professional Fight League. Basically MMA. She's going to do MMA. Now, there's always been talk about Claressa Shields versus Amanda Nunes. For those of you that are not MMA people, Amanda Nunes is a 2-weight world champion in MMA. Arguably the greatest female fighter of all time. I still think that could be Cyborg, although she smoked Cyborg. But she's number one or number two, put it that way. There's been a lot of talk about them two fighting. Now, if Claressa has a couple of fights in the PFL and does do well, no doubt she'll have a massive, massive money fight. More than any boxing fight she can have in the UFC. I know UFC don't pay that great, but because it's Claressa Shields, they'll get her over because they are struggling for opponents for Amanda Nunes. So they'll get her over. So a couple of fights. And that's been no doubt that's the conversations that she's had with her management team behind the scenes. There isn't, unfortunately, a big money fight in boxing for her. The only one is Savannah Marshall because of the story about Savannah Marshall being the last person to beat her. But I don't know if that's a big money fight. I don't know if that excites her or entices her. So it will be Amanda Nunes. That will be the one she really does want just because it's the UFC. And if she can cross over to the UFC, and this is so many ifs here, because she's not even had a bloody MMA fight. But if she can cross over to the UFC and beat Amanda Nunes, then she could be classed as the greatest female fighter of all time. Like, of all time. So there's a lot of things for her to grab at there. So good luck to her. Okay, let's have a look. Tyson Fury, the easiest opponent for me is Joshua. Tailor-made for me. That's just fighters talking, innit? Fighters talking. Eubank Jr. Saunders will fight lower tier guys until he cashes out against me. You know what, yeah? This is why I do this. This is why I sit on this green chair. Although I'm starting to interview people for my show on TalkSport, I can't go out and interview people. Because if Eubank Jr., if I asked Eubank Jr., who I actually like a bit, I just like him, I don't know why. If I asked him a question and he gave me that response, I would actually look at him dead in the eye and say, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what have you done? Well, like, who have you fooled to be saying these things? Like, I'm not even a big Saunders, like, I destroyed Saunders' CV yesterday. But who is Eubank Jr. fool to make it sound like, that line almost makes it sound like Saunders is ducking Eubank Jr. Like Eubank Jr. has gone on and conquered the world and he's the most feared middleweight or super middleweight ever. That's why I have to stay my ass here. I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Antonio Tarver to Mike Tyson. Get me Jake Paul. I want to kick his ass. Well, you know what? To be fair, Jake Paul is a cruiserweight. Antonio Tarver will come down. But no, that's stupid. Look, Jake, you know the thing about Jake Paul? I saw, he done an interview with, I think it might have been Fight Hub, straight after his fight against Nate Robinson. He's in the dressing room. He was as humble as you could get. So he's clearly putting this on. And it's working because people are hating him, but people are tuning in to see him lose. It's working. Whatever he's doing is working. And people need to understand this. Like, these kids are so smart. These YouTube generation kids are so smart. Like, he seems to be pissing people right off. But every now and again, you catch him slipping where the real Jake Paul, and I will say the real Jake Paul comes out and he's as humble as you can get. He just has seen an opening and he's thought, I'll go for it. And one thing I will say as well, credit to the kid. People, like, he makes a lot of money outside of this fucking boxing world where he's risking everything, right? You're risking embarrassment, you're risking injury, you're risking the worst as well. I don't want to get, you know what I'm talking about when I say the worst. He makes a lot of money doing other things. There are other ways to make the pound note or the dollar. He's risking it doing boxing. Credit to him. Because I know a lot of other people that can make a lot of money doing boxing like what he's doing and would not want to get in there and embarrass himself. That's why we must have to credit Nate Robinson as well. Yes, he got smoked and it's embarrassing. There are other ways to make money, dude. And he done it in front of millions and he got his ass kicked. All right, let's last bit. What we got here? Have we got anything else? No, I don't think we have got anything else. Last bit. Okay, George Foreman impressed. Says Mike Tyson still capable of title run. George, don't do it, George. What are you doing, George? Mike Tyson is not capable of a title. What is this? He must be having a laugh. He must be having a laugh. Peace.